Good afternoon to everybody, especially to our speakers. Big thanks to Dave and to Ravi for their very interesting presentations. I had the pleasure of looking at them before you did, dear participants, and a big welcome to you as well. I haven't seen any questions in the chat box yet. So since I had the opportunity to listen to the presentations before, I came up with 3 questions, which I would like to ask, but the floor is open to you anytime you want to come in. I think you can raise your voice, but you can also use the chat box. I'll try to multitask as good as I can. I also prepared a couple of slides, and Chloe, if you could just share the very first one, which gives a very short, the one which is about GFAR, explanation of where I'm from, which is the Global Forum on Agricultural Research and Innovation. Next slide, please. Which is an open and inclusive forum, and that's why I take the opportunity of mentioning it, because you are all welcome to join us. Next slide, please. We are a global forum of more than 800 actors around the globe, mainly from the global south, who are all interested in the transformation of the agri-food system. The way we work is through collective actions, meaning we support our members in joining forces to do meaningful things in order to ultimately achieve the SDGs. These 800 members come from 13 different constituencies, mainly the National Agricultural Research Systems, we have heard about them already, but all the other constituencies interested as well. So please feel free to join. We can now please, I'm always watching the mailbox, already show the next slide, because that is relating to a question or a point that was raised by Dave, which is about principles that should maybe guide us in our way in working with the Global South. Can we please move to the next slide so that we have this, I think it's the next one, sorry, not the correct order, the one with the principles. Thank you very much. So the panelists, both of them, Dave and Ravi, mentioned that there is a plethora of international agricultural organizations, and they both underlined that they need to work better together so that we can transform the agri-food system and achieve the SDGs. Against this common understanding, I would like to ask what we can do in order to work better together, to sing from the same song sheet, as people say in English, and to join forces in the best possible way. This is all the more important as SDGs will not be achieved at the global level. They will not be achieved by the UN. They will not be achieved by our institutions' efforts. They will have to be achieved by the people and in the countries. And so there might be a more important role to be played by the national agricultural research systems. And maybe with this in mind, the system that we think of like a top-down approach, the UN devising sustainable development goals and people on the ground having to achieve them, we may turn things the other way around and put small-scale producers center stage. So that's my first question to the speakers. Would you go for it, or do you want me to continue with the next one, because it's closely related and it could maybe give us some direction. Dave, you mentioned we need a more principled approach to mobilize and guide, especially investments, because that's what desperately needed for whatever change we want to hopefully see happening. And you also shared the principles that COSAI came up with. We in GFAR also have principles, and we are currently discussing them and hope to be able to establish them as global standards in great pleasure by joining forces with COSAI, with whoever else would like to join this endeavor. And this is what you see here on the slide. So we call ours partnership principles because we really want our members to be center stage, and every research and every innovation that may hopefully happen be done in close partnership with the actors in the Global South. So maybe with these two questions, what are the key principles that we could join and jointly advocate for in case we agree, and I think this is what we heard, on a more principled approach to achieve a better coordination and cooperation within the whole setup, the international agricultural institutions, but also with all the other actors on the ground. May I hand over maybe first to you, Dave, and then to Ravi?
Sure. Thanks so much, Hildegard. So yeah, really pleased to join the discussion. Just let me note I'm coming in from Australia, so it's quite late on a Friday night, so it's probably not my best look for everyone. Let me first address the singing from the same song sheet. And I've actually joined the conference right at the beginning, and so I've listened to all the discussion. So there are just a couple of points I want to make about singing from the same song sheet. So earlier today, we heard about the collaboration that's occurred in Israel. Now, actually, I listened to it from a different angle, because what I heard was some of the things about singing from the same song sheet. So I heard, that it needs long-term efforted approaches, and that government policy is a really important component to support the goals. The governance structures need to be right. But the thing that really drew my attention in terms of all of us singing from the same song sheet from the example in Israel was that we need to draw together the right ecosystem of actors right at the beginning of the process, and have those actors engaged in a way around the right governance structures. So I thought that was a really interesting insight, because if you recall my sort of falling into the valley of death innovation process, it was very linear and it was very one step after the other. But for me, in terms of getting us all on the same song sheet, it's about that formation of the ecosystem of actors at the right period of time, not in a linear way, but in a way that we can act together in quite a dynamic way. The other point I want to make too, and look, this is something for us to consider. Often when we think of innovation, we think about science and technology, where lots of us are well-trained agricultural scientists or engineers, etc. So we think about as innovation as the output of science and technology. But if we're to all sing from the same song sheet, the singers that we need to have with us come from policy and need to draw in innovation policy. They come from finance, and we need to think about innovative finance. They come from institutions and building capable institutions, and that done in an innovative way. So the other thing about getting us all singing from the same song sheet is that there are lots of singers, not just science and tech, but policy, finance, capability, and to bring them all together. So why don't I just stop there in terms of singing from the same song sheet, and we can come back to the principles discussion, but perhaps Ravi would like to contribute, not necessarily in song, but on the same song sheet.
Thanks, Dave. It's a big core, and that's what we have seen from Ravi's presentation. Ravi, over to you, please. You are muted. Still muted. Yeah, now it could work.
Thank you, Hildegard, and thank you, Dave, for making the base for me to speak. I think singing song from the same song sheet is very much required, but at the same time, it's very complex. Because like what Dave mentioned, I fully agree. Every singer has his own capability, his own role, and his own background. So he will sing the song in his own way, in his own style, in his own voice. The key point here is, can we really sing a song very melodiously encompassing the policy, the other financial aspects, the technical things, and the partnership and everything, which I think is quite difficult. It's quite, and that is a challenge. And it probably may not happen on the ground. And I'm not seeing personally any ideal case for that. Why I'm saying, because when you talk of international organizations, I try to give a very simplest possible presentation, because I first of all myself digested what is being asked of me and how to present it. I didn't go dive deep into the complexities of how they work. I use my experiences of working with them, and I found, like I say, I have a song sheet. I went everywhere. I went to World Bank, to FAO and IFAD and UNESCO, UNESCAP to sing the song from there. I got a very different song. Then when I came to USDA, I came to GIZ, I went to ACIR, I went to such kind of a big global funding organization, let me say, and they're technical also at times. Finally, I look at one organization which we all know is global, CGIAR. It was a very big consortium of 15, 16 institutions. It tried to now, it's trying to make one CG to become stronger, but look lesser in number, just one. Then again, if you look at the song what CGIAR sings, which is very important, they are on the ground. Again, you find they are themselves in the field of transformation, themselves, not to speak of agri-food transformation you are talking about. You see, the challenge is at double level. CG itself is being transformed. We need agri-food system transformation as soon as possible. So it is quite a problem that they're not able right now to sing the way we want them to sing. And then there are a lot of regional networks. And then comes the national system. Eventually, it is the national system which has to be at the center of all the points. And that is where we have to think whether what we are singing has an acceptability or not. And that is where we have to go to the lowest denominator, the farmer, to see that whether he is involved right at the stage of innovation or not. And whether his consent, his role right from designing is there or not. So we come from a very big global system to a small scale farmer in some poor country. And we want the whole system to be transformed. I think it's a very big challenge, and I may stop here for the time being because we can discuss a lot, because it involves a lot of issues of acceptability, funding, mandate, objectives, compatibility. A lot of partnership principles come into play a role, and there are a lot of competitions and a lot of jealousies and a lot of things going on that front. Some organizations are not involved. We have a lot of global organizations. They just don't care for regional organization. They come with their global expertise, but the regional networks are there who know better the region. There are a lot of I'm not going into that. My only point is it is very difficult to sing a good melodious song from the same song sheet by everyone. Yeah. Over to you, Hildegard.
I know, being German, I know it's doable. I'm not an expert in music. I'm not a composer, but we had some very good composers in Germany, if I may say so. So it's doable. I know that, and right. I enjoy listening to music. And the more voices you have, the better it is. So with this positive attitude, let's hope that we have identified one key element, and I think we all agree on this. You just said it, Ravi, the national agricultural research systems need to be at the very center. In the principles that David presented and that COSAI has come up with, it clearly says in principle number 2, conduct innovation processes in an inclusive and ethical manner. So that's clearly what we all agree on. And if you look at GFAR principles that we put together in cooperation with whoever wants to join is clearly, I mean, it's easy things, but super important ones, that we have and apologize for using another German reference, a leitmotif, right? A red thread or whatever. There needs to be a music, and this music needs to be developed by the people. And we are all here to work with them to support that. I think this is the common understanding we have, and it's a good one, and it's hopefully will guide our joint efforts in the future. It brings me to the last question which I prepared, and I'm still looking at the chat box and don't see anybody else, so I'm free to go ahead. And that question is about innovation, because we are here, and thanks to the organizers for bringing us together at this innovation conference. And you alluded to innovation and how important it is, but also how important it is to be seen in a different way than we usually do. Dave just mentioned that again. We in GFAR did a survey recently among our members, and we were inspired to do so because FAO came up with an Office of Innovation and Innovation Strategy, as you may have heard, based on an innovation survey they did among FAO. And we thought, wait, there is not just FAO, right? We are all here to serve the people on the ground. So we did another survey with the very same questions as FAO did, and we will publish this in September, and it will be interesting to compare the two results. But what I can already disclose, and we can have the slide, please, which gives you at least the title and the main results. No, not this one. There is another one, which is called, it was before, sorry, it was entitled Colinova Innovation Survey. It's the slide before. It clearly shows the importance of co-innovation. So the main message that our members came up with, yes, here we go. So it was carried out between May and August this year, so recently. We are just looking at the executive summary and how to turn the conclusions and recommendations. And we circulated among all our members, more than 800, as you see again here. And the main finding is the importance of co-innovation and I mean, we don't want to exclude any exchange, technology transfers, exchange, South-South solutions, but then it's super important to adapt to the local conditions. So this is a super interesting result. I think it's confirming what you have been saying. And my question to you would now be, how do you see the potential of innovations in the Global South? And how can international organizations help and support them? So not the top-down, but again, what about the bottom-up approaches? What should be done to do better on that front? Maybe we do the same order of Dave, please.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, thanks, Hildegard. A really important topic, and I was pleased to see these preliminary findings, and I'm looking forward to reading the report. I think, so just a couple of comments. One of the big challenges in this space involved in innovation, but taking innovation to scale, is that importance of the context. So, and as you've just pointed out, Hildegard, and as comes out in this survey, is the context is so relevant, not only from a agroecological point of view, which lots of us would be focused on, but the institutional structures, etc., are really important to enable that innovation to be held sustainably in those situations. And the great challenge is being able to work at that context, but take innovation to scale. Because what scale means is working at different contexts in a whole range of different ways. So that's the great challenge, that this architecture of international organizations, national and local, needs to be able to navigate together. So the innovation can hold at the local level in that context, but the architecture of how those groupings and how those firms, how those organizations, how those institutions work together can go to scale. So that's sort of the big framing. So then one more thing, and then I'll come to you, Ravi. I won't speak too much. There's no doubt that innovation has been a massive contributor to some of the world's great challenges. Ravi points out that we're challenged by meeting the SDGs by 2030, and absolutely agree. But if you look at the contribution agriculture and innovation in agriculture has made since the Green Revolution, it's pretty astounding what we've been able to do from an innovation point of view. I think what we've got to turn our mind to is the great challenge of the future, and innovation has to play a role, particularly in climate change. And I just want to point one thing out in terms of climate change. So at the moment, the agricultural system contributes about 22% of all greenhouse gas emissions. And if we consider the whole food system, it's about 30%. So it's a big contributor. And the main contribution that agriculture makes is methane and nitrous oxide, okay? Now, we also think that innovations within agriculture take about 30 years to get to the maximum rate of adoption. So something coming out of the research centre takes 30 years before its maximum rate of adoption. So that takes us through till 2050. What the IPCC recent report on Working Group 3, which is the mitigation group, reported that at the moment, the major contributor to climate change is the energy sector through CO2. But from 2050 onwards, so that's only the time frame to get to the maximum rate of adoption of innovation. From 2050 onwards, methane and nitrous oxide will be the major contributor to climate change. So we must act now in that international architecture that allows us to engage with context-specific innovations, like we heard, climate smart innovations, etc., because there's no time to waste to meet both the SDGs, but also that longer term contribution that agriculture has to make to a positive turnaround in the climate situation. So let me leave it there.
Thank you very much, Dave, for this very important context, which we haven't touched upon yet. Ravi, may I directly hand over to you? We are left with a couple of minutes only. Thank you.
Thank you, Hildegard, and thank you, Dave, for really giving the very importance of the context in the case of innovation. I would like to say, first of all, this GFAR Polinova Innovation Survey is a fantastic one. It shows before the public, before everyone, the importance of where we really need to focus. This is very clear. And looking at the importance of this survey and the output, in a way, how we can really scale up the innovation is at the level of the at the national or local level is the point. And over here, my concern being related to the ground and working with the regional network and NARS here, my concern is we don't have an agriculture innovation system in place. That is my major concern. We all talk of innovation, importance, the investment and innovation on agriculture, environment, social, which are fantastic observations. We have now all the information available. It's time we just sit down and we try to make an agriculture innovation system well in place in the countries in a way that we are able to have a multi-stakeholder platform to address any case of innovation. Be it a policymaker, researcher, farmer, private sector, whatever. So that multi-stakeholder platform is missing. Whatever innovation we want to do, whatever challenges we want to address. And the major point here is we are still not focusing, only certain section of the people are doing innovation, and hence all the anomalies are what Dave rightly pointed out in terms of both innovation and the investment in innovation. We are not developing the capacity to innovate. The focus on building the capacity to innovate will change the whole scenario. Where I say capacity to really mobilize funding, capacity to do innovation by the smallest denominator of agriculture, a small scale farmer, for example. So I look at from a slightly different perspective, but I'm fully in agreement with what Dave has said. And as per the output, we just need to focus on agriculture innovation system in developing and least developed countries. And we can't waste any more time looking at the UN Food System Summit, the way they have highlighted the importance of innovation. I stop here, Hildegard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have 3 minutes left to conclude. Let me thank both of you for the important points you made, and let me underline how important your conclusions are. Dave, you said that there's a lot to be done immediately. We missed so many opportunities already. And yes, agriculture and food are contributing 30% to global CO2 emissions. So there is a lot to be done immediately. There are luckily also some ways of doing that. And one, for example, is something that very much applies to us in the north, which is about nutrition. And that is, I recently read in a report that was published, I don't remember, I can share the reference with whoever is interested, that if only we would follow a type of Mediterranean diet, less red meat, and more vegetables, we would be able to reduce CO2 emissions by 27%, I thought it was. So there are ways, things that can be done, and not always by others, by ourselves. The other thing, the FAO survey, when it was done last year, came up with the most important innovations as seen by FAO people is farmers' school. So again, it shows it's a process more than a technology. We will have an opportunity to speak about our innovation survey and what comes out as the most important thing on top of the way we look at innovation. It will certainly show how important it is. And I think this is the main point, Ravi, that you stressed again, that we need to have the national agricultural research and innovation systems center stage, and that we need to empower them. And again, this is the process that we should all engage with. So we have 2 good conclusions, I think. Thank you so much. There were many more things in your brilliant presentations that would have been worth discussing. We are running out of time. Let me just give us an opportunity to continue this discussion beyond today's opportunity. And colleagues, would you please show this latest slide, which gives you an invitation, voila, to another GFAR Talks event that we are holding on a quarterly basis. The next one will discuss repurposing food and agricultural policies to make healthy diets more affordable. This is a report that, thanks again to Dave, you mentioned in your presentation. We will have the author, who is a FAO colleague, presenting the main recommendations they came up with, and somebody from the World Bank to discuss it. He is from an innovation background, how to repurpose policies and funding, and that may take us to other dimensions, levels. In any case, it will provide us an opportunity to come together and to continue this super important discussion. Let me thank the speakers, the organizers, and the participants for what I thought was a very insightful and interesting discussion today. Thanks, and back to Singapore, Bordeaux, wherever.
Thanks, everyone. And excellent moderation, Hildegard. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Hildegard, and thank you, Dave.